All right, it's the Gift of Gaming podcast. We are going again because I messed up the intro the first time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's another Games Club episode, and this week we're talking about Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. Play the intro. Okay, I hope you're all sitting comfortably and ready to hear all about our thoughts on Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. Today, I am joined by the Nolan brothers, Craig the Critical. Craig, how are you?
How you doing, Darren?
You well?
I am good, thank you.
Good, good. And also Colin, of course. Colin, welcome.
Hello, Darren, and hello, Craig. I hope you are both well, and we're keen to get into some game.
Yeah. Before we do, guys, how about that weather today, huh?
Oh,
What a scorcher, huh?
It is a scorcher.
And that is rare for Ireland. Did you guys get up to anything nice today?
I got a little bit of a park hang, which was nice.
Yeah.
I got a lot of sun yesterday as well, so I was trying not to stay out in it too long, be a little bit mindful.
Yeah.
Sun cream and all that jazz.
Our
as
pasty
well.
Irish skin doesn't like that sun.
Yeah, you don't want to feel like you need that aloe vera. If you use it, like at the after sun, if it feels nice, that's good, but you don't want to need it.
Great tip. I always have this time of year, I always leave aloe vera after sun in the fridge. So if I ever get a bad burnt day and I come back, it is the most soothing thing to put on my burnt
That's
skin.
a solid holiday tactic right there.
Oh man, it was so good. It was so good. The only unfortunate thing about this weather is not great gaming weather, fellas.
No.
Well, I mean, so long as
we
don't mind morally. Like today, I snuck out, went to the park for 2 hours, and I was like, you know what? I got my son today, and then I ran back home and played Zelda.
I like the image of you running back to play Zelda as well. Just be like, okay, that's it.
I set a timer on my phone during the 2 hours.
And even with me, like I was trying to play it in the sun, like the Switch, just getting Zelda out on the go, and I just couldn't see anything the way that the sun was glaring, no matter what angle I tried to get at. So I made like a MacGyver-esque headpiece that was essentially just like a bandana or like a little shawl.
Yeah.
I got like sunglasses to anchor onto my head and just draped it over the screen, and I was able to sit out in the back garden, get no sun on my head,
them rays.
and just make the most of both of them.
Yeah,
I looked ridiculous. There's a photo, but like I was happy.
No, I mean, as long as you can conquer both sides of the spectrum, you get your sun, but you're also still playing video games. I couldn't find it in myself because the balcony was like, soaking up all the sun this morning before I went out to the park, and I was like, maybe I'll play some of The Witcher 3 because that's my new game at the minute. I went into
very nice choice
to GameStop to look for something to buy because unfortunately after all these years GameStop is closing down at the end of this month in Ireland. It's tragic, but they have good offers on some games, so I got The Witcher 3 PS5 version complete edition for like under 20 quid. And I've never played The Witcher 3, so it's, it was bargain from my perspective.
For me, you're already too late, and like you probably won't enjoy it as much as you should.
So in fairness, I've done about 5-6 hours of it, the first couple of quests. I think the gameplay's... Huh?
In like the White Orchard area?
Yes, yeah. And like, gameplay's fine.
You're enjoying it?
Yeah,
it's okay.
So I mean, I don't know if did you see the PS5 version at all?
No, I've heard terrible things.
I haven't found anything wrong with it so far. I mean, it's smooth enough. The performance option is great because I don't bother with the ray tracing option because it's like, it's a PS4 early PS4 game.
PS4 early PS4
early PS4 game. So I'm like, this ray tracing, it's like, it's just like polishing a turd. It's it's not worth it. But the performance option is great. Like it runs smooth, like really really smooth. Battle stuff is enjoyable, and the graphics are aged a little bit, but it's still not in any way that I'm like, the game looks crap, I'm not playing it. It still looks very very good. So
Witcher 3 was very much one of those games that like you'd boot up and then just pan the camera around, and do nothing. But there's no way it could be that game for you,
I mean, having played Forbidden West, I'll never get that graphic like, oh my god. But it still looks very impressive, and I'm going into it knowing that this is a game that's about like, how old is the game now? Like 8 years old? 9 years?
Older.
8 or 9,
older.
yeah.
Over 10.
But I mean, like just the quality of life things that game doesn't have, like being able to call your horse and like mount him while you're moving. Like you have to stop, jump on him. That type of stuff is just unforgivable now.
And you can't pick up anything while you're on Roach as well, which I noticed because the map it's one of those. I'm going to have a really hard time with this game because I'm a deviant for seeing like pop-ups on the map and like I'm going to collect them all. Yep. But I got into this thing of like, okay, I'm going to, because there's loads of herbs and alchemy stuff that you can pick up everywhere on that mini map. but I realized I had to get off Roach every single time, and I was like, fuck this, I'm not. So
It
yes,
sucks, right?
So those things absolutely. I'm definitely playing an old game, but as a man who's currently reading the Witcher books and who was somewhat
that'll help.
excited for the Witcher next season of the Witcher, maybe not. But there's a lot of media of it out there at the minute, so I'm in hook, line, and sinker, and just the start of it with Vesemir and Geralt, I was like, oh yeah, I can get more of this world in my life, and I haven't never experienced it. My brother says nothing but amazing things about it, so I'm excited. But enough about The Witcher, guys. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Advance Wars Reboot Camp 1 and 2. Give people a little bit of a background, okay? This is a remastered game. It's a double pack of 2 games that came out on the Game Boy Advance. The first one being Advance Wars 1 by Intelligent Systems in January of 2002. That's what its EU release was. And the other game being Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising, again by Intelligent Systems, released in the EU in October 2003. This one, however, Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, has been done by Way Forward and was released only, a month ago, pretty much.
Close to 2 now.
Yeah. I guess we'll start off with, initial thoughts on... just initial thoughts. Like, on the gameplay, we picked up this game. I was very excited. I played the shit out of the original ones in the Game Boy Advance. What were your guys' initial impressions of gameplay and stuff when you picked it up?
Initial gameplay, I was enjoying it a lot. Especially, starting with the first game, I was just easing myself in there and, it's a lot brighter. It's, a very bright game and colourful. I think in comparison to maybe the first one, but it was nice. Everything looked shinier and nice, and for the most part I loved it. I did really love it, but I think at a certain point it did start to kind of lose its charm on me.
Okay.
But maybe that's just me. I don't know. What was your impressions?
Well, Advance Wars is, I don't know if people know what the type of game it is. Well, it's just like a top-down, turn-based kind of tactical game where you have your units and the enemy has their units, and you take turns moving across the kind of 2-dimensional field, and you can build units and you can deploy them, move around. All the different units have different strengths, different weaknesses. So there's helicopters are usually good against tanks are good against infantry, and infantry are good against capturing buildings and stuff like that, so the gameplay is a nice loop. And you can use, when you're moving around, not all terrain is the same. So if you move into the woods, you'll get a defensive boost of 20%. Or if you go up on the mountains, you can get an increased vision and you get an attack bonus. So it really feels like a really tactical kind of, just a really good tactical game in terms of combat gameplay. And you really feel quite smart if you outmaneuver an enemy sometimes. That being said, the AI is really, really bad in this game. So, that, sense of relief kind of depletes.
Do you think that the AI they've pretty much taken copy and paste from the original games, or do you think it's
no?
you think it's worse?
I tested this, Darren.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
So
we've got research.
Yeah, in the original games, often the enemy would stay out of your line of sight. If you put a rocket unit forward, then the enemy, if it had 1 tank, it would never move within range of your rockets. But if it had 2 or 3 tanks, it would go within range.
This is in the original ones?
In the original. Because it knew it could beat it. One of them would take a hit, but it would go in to destroy the rocket overall. But in this game, on one of the maps, I deployed a battleship. The enemy had 3 battleships, and none of the 3 battleships entered my range. If all 3 of them had went in, they would have destroyed me on the next turn, because they had 3 units to my 1. But just having a battleship kept the enemy battleships at bay, because it's an indirect unit and the enemy is programmed not to enter your firing range, which meant me with my 1 battleship, I was able to keep all of the enemy's battleships completely at hand's reach, and that annoyed me a lot, because I was able to cheese, as soon as I figured that out, I was able to win through underhanded tactics, through just manipulating
by
the AI,
knowing what the AI will and won't do.
Won't do. Whereas I should have been annihilated in that situation, but the enemy cowered and did nothing. So it's one of those cases where whatever they've tinkered with, I don't think they field tested it quite well. They just went, let's tweak this and go from there. Yeah. But it can cripple the actual gameplay, some of the changes they've done.
putting a shiny new skin over it, kind of essentially, and as you said, making things a little bit. Because I noticed that as well. I mean, I was like, is this actually true, or am I just older and smarter? Because the game's almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
So I would have been, in my early teens playing this game, and I'm like, just by the way, in my early teens playing this game, I played the absolute crap out of this game. So for those of you who haven't played it, there's a campaign mode, there's a versus mode, play with your friends. You can do that online or locally. There's a war room mode where you can go in and do all these additional maps that have nothing to do with the campaign, and all of these kind of extra modes, you'll earn coins depending on how well you completed the mission, and you can use those coins to buy different commanding officers, music, more levels, etc., etc. When I played through the first two, I absolutely obliterated the campaigns and the war room. Like, I had those games down 100% complete. So much so that when I was playing this game 20 years later almost, I was going into some of the campaign maps and the odd war room map being like, oh, I know what the strategy. Like, my 13, 14-year-old brain was still like, that part of me was still there being like, hey, Darren, put a helicopter over there and you'll get this. So it's amazing that I loved that game so much as a teenager that coming to it now, so much of it has stuck with me. And I guess for me, from my perspective on the gameplay, maybe there's a nostalgia effect coming in that it probably was my all-time favorite Game Boy Advance game that was out there. Definitely the one I spent the most time on, for sure. That playing through this reboot, although I don't exactly agree with all of the, what would you say, like the design changes, purely the aesthetic design changes, I don't agree with all of them. And I don't necessarily know if I agree with like the difficulty it sets. You get like a casual and a standard. I can't remember. There's only two modes. Neither I felt were difficult enough for me now in my early 30s. But that aside, I 100% it's Advance Wars 1. I am almost 100% on Advance Wars 2, and I've done a couple of war room levels.
Fair play to you, Darren.
And I think, but it's that thing where I think it's got such Intelligent Systems, who originally made these, have gone on to make, they've made loads of Fire Emblem games, which we're all big fans of here. Very, very different in terms of like they're more medieval based with like swords and magic and stuff like that. But there's something about, and it's so simple, as you said, there's certain terrains, just a wood, the forest, there's mountains
and a city,
and the cities, your roads, and that's all it is for terrain. And there's something so satisfying about using the simplicity of it to your advantage any way you can to completely own maps. And I went through, like, there were some levels I did, especially when I was playing as Green Earth there. Like, I'm almost finished the Green Earth. We'll go into like the nations and the commanding officers, but I just finished the Green Earth missions, and I'm now moving on to Black Hole missions in Advance Wars 2. So pretty much the end game.
That's exactly where I am as well.
But some of those big and they're long, and we'll get into that as well, how some of these missions could probably be considered too long. But some of those long missions, I went in there and I completely aced them. Like, where I sat back when I finished the mission, it was like, if this is anything less than the perfect 300 points, I will be disappointed. And lo and behold, it's the perfect 300 points. And I was like, yeah, because there's, and you can make mistakes, and like there's loads of these kind of, I suppose, quality of life things where it lets you reset turns and things like that, which I never really used too much because I was like, well, I've made a mistake here. Can I fix it? Things like that. I never went into that too much. But overall, I thought the game was thoroughly enjoyable. It's literally reliving my teens.
Because the originals are the greatest games on the Game Boy Advance, like you said. Like Advance Wars 2 is, I think, the best game on the Game Boy Advance, with no exceptions. Like,
I think it got 100%. And was it Edge back in the day? One of the magazines.
Well, Edge go in 10s, but I think it was a 10 out of 10 game with Edge. Same way I think they gave 10 to the first one too. But like, that just goes to show, like, they only give like a 10 out of 10 maybe 3 or 4 times a year, like, and that was reserved for a handheld game, which even the Zeldas didn't get that. Like,
Ocarina of Time did.
I know, but I mean the handheld Zeldas.
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time would get it, but the handheld Zelda is always seen as a step down.
So I think in terms of, for me, the gameplay perspective of it, they haven't lost any of the. I mean, the AI is possibly a bit weaker, we think.
Possibly,
I think difficulty.
Just to add a couple of things, but it's probably fine overall. It's probably a different decision. Like, if I tried to do something else, maybe the AI would have been worse. So they've tinkered with it for a reason. So there's probably some benefits. You'd have to like do major testing, and that's not for me. Yeah.
To go in and try every like a level or outcome. Colin, the skins, the remastered skins, like the new look of it, because one of the things I'd use to describe would be like shiny and squeaky. Would be, which isn't necessarily a good thing. What was your impressions of the new skins to this game? Because just so people know out there, this has gotten brand new skins, brand new animations for the commanding officers, and some voice acting on it as well, which I don't believe the first two had any sort of voice acting. It was all just text.
I barely
bubbles.
even call it that. I mean, what, a few lines of dialogue per character, and that's it. Like, usually it's one line, and then the rest is text.
Yeah. And then sometimes just make the classic anime grunt noises for certain things. But so, how did you feel about those kind of? I mean, would you consider them upgrades, downgrades?
I think visually, yes, it is an upgrade. And before today, I probably wouldn't have said that, but I did have a look at some old footage of the original Advance Wars, and I was like, okay, yeah, like it's still almost the exact same, but it's rough, you know, and not as colorful. So they've visually they've improved how things look. They've made the screen brighter. It's kind of like what I imagine it would have been like playing the Game Boy Advance and then playing the game on the Game Boy SP. It comes out clearly. It's got that backlight.
The backlight,
That's how I imagine this was. But like when you say all the voice acting and stuff like that, to be honest with you, like bar playing the missions, the campaign and all the dialogue is terrible. Like it's like they don't even voice act a lot of it. There's just certain things that they voice act.
Yeah.
Like all the like things between COs are very boring and unusual. The only time there's ever good ones is like one time I think I had Max and what's his name, Max and Flak. They had a good back and forth, and Flak's one of the enemies in number 2. And I was like, okay, this is the first one I've kind of seen that I actually didn't mind. But usually it's just, you know, like you call him a kid and he calls you an oaf. And the two of them are like, hey, don't call me that. And then they settle their differences and win the battle.
The dialogue in every single mission usually goes down to something like that. Like there's Nell and Lash who will have, oh, she called me hag, oh, he called me dog. Like there's always someone calls someone a name, and then that other person gets angry, and that happens in almost every mission.
One of the interesting ones, and this is like, you know, this is small, but I mean, I guess for like lore or story building, I thought it was quite neat, which I didn't remember from the first one. But in the first Advance Wars, you are essentially Orange Star playing against all the other armies who have kind of been pitted against each other essentially by Black Hole. And when we were playing it, I didn't realize that Grit from the Blue Moon Army used to be an Orange Star member with Max and Sammy, and obviously him and Nell, who was like the overall CO of Orange Star, must have had a bit of a relationship or something going on, because there was a little bit of awkwardness kind of in that first game. I was like, oh, okay, and that little bit of voice acting helped that. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't just reading text. I was like, which I never noticed, and maybe I didn't care as a 13-year-old playing the game, but I was like, oh, holy, you know, Grit's a bit of a defector who had a bit of a relationship with Nell. I was like, oh, the drama. This is like an episode of EastEnders here.
But that's
like,
you digging deeper than it is.
It's how and that's how I play games most of the time. I always kind of
no, you're right to play it that way, but the game will not go further into any of that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. But that part was interesting. How did you find those kind of minor touch-ups, Craig?
They're fine. They're just the bare minimum, I would say. You know, I mean, obviously you're gonna make the game look slightly better. It was a Game Boy fucking 20 years ago, like, you know, so all you have to do is give it a slight sheen, and it's always gonna just the coloring on the Switch itself might be enough to just make it look better. They may have not even touched it.
that LCD screen,
it has a built-in backlight, like, you know. But I don't understand why they went with the toy soldier look, unless they would change the game and get rid of all the actors and get rid of all the dialogue and change the gameplay so that it actually is people playing a game like chess, that they're actually playing a game in a room with each other, and these are the units
that was
using.
The most disappointing change that I found, was that I didn't mind like the tanks and everything like that. I think there was a certain kind of softness and squeakiness to them that I didn't really like, but they weren't too bad. But the infantry, the soldiers,
infantry that looked the worst.
And I think, and I don't know, maybe this is just me speculating, but the game was delayed for about a year based on the Russian invasion,
and that's what I find mad, because they made them all look like toys. But that wasn't enough. It still got delayed for a year, despite the fact that they tried to make it not look like
real war. Yeah,
and then it didn't
delayed.
work. So those little changes were pointless, because it didn't matter anyway. The game was going to get delayed because of a war,
and for a good year as well. But I'm delighted in the fact that the game still came out, and I think even the developers from Way Forward were absolutely gobsmacked by how successful it was. But I think there's a lot of people like us three out there who would have played it as teenagers, who would have loved the game and said, hey, I haven't played that in 2 decades, you know, I'll give it a go with a new skin. So, but yeah, that toy soldier like Kitty kind of, I didn't, and like I looked at some screenshots before we sat down today of Advance Wars 1 and 2, and you said it perfectly. The old ones kind of look rougher, but that roughness was something I actually think I prefer. Looking at the screenshots from 1 and 2 back in the early 2000s to this one now, I mean, this one looks great. It's lots of lovely color, but there's a certain, it's too soft for what it is for me. I prefer that kind of roughness, that edginess.
I get that.
I suppose going on to, I mean, one the fun thing about the game is that there's a number of nations that you can play for and commanding officers, each one with their own superpowers and different ways to play strategy. So, I mean, I'll go through, for the listeners, of course, who might not play this game or have only played a bit of it. There's 4 factions for the good side and 1 faction for the bad side. The 4 factions are Orange Star, Blue Moon, Yellow Comet,
Gold
Green Earth.
Comet, be careful.
Oh, Gold Comet, thank you. Yeah, Gold Comet, Green Earth, and then the enemy is just called Black Hole. Yeah, and there's a number of commanding officers for each. So, I guess just straight off the bat, Craig, I'll go to you first. Your favorite nation and your favorite commanding officer, and why?
My favorite nation is easily Gold Comet.
Yeah.
Because all 3 of their commanders I think are amazing. I only yesterday, after we played that little multiplayer test, did I realize, okay, Sonya is probably the best for multiplayer, but I would never usually pick her in the campaign because there's always one Fog of War mission per land, I would say. Like, so 1 in every 10 missions is Fog of War, like, you know, and they're just the best missions. Like, they're just that extra fear factor. So I really enjoy Sonya for that because she can see further than everyone else. Yeah. So she can see the enemy coming, and I just find that really tactical to be able to maybe maneuver around them and stuff. But Sensei has always been my favorite. Just the toothless old man with the big gut and the
paratrooper gear still on him.
Because he's just that old wise coot, but like his power is all regards to transport helicopters and battle helicopters, and I think all his units get like a 30% boost. His battle copters, like, and I always thought the helicopters.
Sensei. No, isn't his power. His first power is that.
No, not his power. So his just by default, all his battle copters have like 30% extra attack power, which is massive because battle copters. If there's no anti-air units, like air units reign supreme. Like they even like. An MD tank costs 16,000, whereas a battlecopter costs 9,000. But the battlecopter can easily go toe to toe with the MD tank, like no problem. Like, and the MD tank will do little damage against it. So I really, really enjoy using battlecopters, like more than most, because I just feel that they're one of the more overpowered type of units. Yeah. And Sensei really brings that to fruition. And then you have Kenbai, who is just 30% attack and defense with all his units. Granted, they're 20% more expensive, but when you're playing against the AI, striking first is essential. Yeah. And if you're striking first with 30% extra attack power, their counter attack is going to do no damage. Because in this game, if 2 units of 10 attack, like if a unit with 10 attacks another unit with 10 and reduces his health to 4, then that enemy unit is only attacking with a power of 4.
In their counter
So it's not 10 versus 10, you know? It's like when you do damage, you are really weakening / crippling that unit. Yeah. So being able to do 7 or 8 damage instead of the 6 means that their counter attack might not even do 1 point of damage to your units. So I thought Kenbai was like the absolute powerhouse. Yeah. So Gold Comet and those 3 were your choice. Some of my favorites. Yeah.
And what about you, Colin? Do you have a...
I've got a couple of different ones that I like to dabble between, and in some of the missions you actually get to choose like a couple of CEOs, maybe even a few, and combining certain people's abilities, and that is great. Yeah. But I would say, by and large, I really like using, and it depends on the level, because if you're on a level where there's no buildings, then my pick is useless. But if it's a level where, you know, there's a lot of bases and helicopters and enemy territory and like air bases,
lots of stuff up for grabs,
I like to go Sammy from Orange Army. Yeah. Basically, she just like from a level 10, instead of, if you capture a building, instead of taking taking 10 off that 20 health of the building, Sammy's forces will do 15 off that 20. But what's useful for that is, let's say I'm in your base, Darren, and I start taking your base, your headquarters. If you attack me with something and it does like 4 damage, then on my next turn when I capture it, I'll only get 6. So I'll be down from 20 minus 16 down to 4. Whereas with Sammy, she just has that little extra boost to help capture stuff. So if she still has only 7, Whereas a normal person would still need to capture one more time to make up that 3 difference. Sammy like overcompensates each time, so like she can get in there, get a few units to start taking over bases,
and even with a damaged unit, she can generally get it in 2 turns.
Like realistically, I don't want to take their base. I want to take their factories. I want to like get in there, take shit quick, like put useless units that maybe have no fuel on top of their factories, just so that like they can't produce something to defend. Like,
but how would Sammy benefit you with that?
Because she gets involved there and starts taking the buildings faster. So if they take damage, then she's just less likely to become useless.
Oh, I see, the buildings around the factory.
Yeah, I need to take those factories immediately. If her unit dies or whatever, that's fine, but I build like a big tank or whatever I can use to counter whatever's around me immediately, you know? So I like doing that with Sammy. She's my gal.
She'd be your top, would she?
She'd be in my top 3 to 5, yeah.
Okay, you got any others as well?
Oh, big time, yeah. I know you'll probably talk about him as well. I love, you've talked about Kembe. I love Kembe. But I love Eagle. Eagle has possibly the best superpower in the game. He's like phase 2, he's able to move all of his units. Once you move all the units and you can't make any more moves, you use his ability, and everyone other than foot units, like soldiers and stuff, everyone other than that gets to move again. But I think that their attack power is a little bit reduced. But if you've already attacked them on that turn and you just get a little extra boost to, like, as Craig said, you've already crippled that unit and taken them down from 10 to 4, you're finishing the job with that second round of attacks. Yeah. And, like, using that tactically at the right moment, you can absolutely just fucking walk through people.
In Advance Wars 1, he was my least favorite person to play against in terms of strategy-wise. I struggled the most with him because you would do this move thinking, okay, I've settled in, right, this is perfect, without realizing that on his move he gets his power and he can go twice, which completely fucked up my strategy each and every time that happened, you know? Like, I mean, you can recover from it, of course. The game isn't that difficult, but it was always one of those things where if I wanted that perfect game, he was the one I struggled most with to get that perfect game. Like, you know, so to play against him would be tough, but he's a great character. And a third person?
I really enjoy playing as Grit. Grit for the extra, for the extra range on his artillery. Like I was saying earlier about how in certain missions you get to team up with a few people.
Yep.
My 3 go-to for that particular mission was Sammy down the bottom where she can take over all the buildings.
Yep.
Grit on the top left where he can basically like keep off black hole forces like at bay using all the artillery. And on the far right by the airports I had Eagle, and I was able to use like all 3 of their abilities, like the capturing, the extra range artillery, and then like just the moving twice with each
the
army.
Perfect strategy.
It was great. I lost that mission once, but I had like 3 people that didn't work. I used Olaf with someone else, and I think Olaf ended up going first or second. So when he used his blizzard, he just fucked over everyone who went after him because all the movement gets reduced. Because
even for your allies, which is just like, you know, that's, you know, with some COs
you can never really use Olaf in a team up situation. You should just discount him instantly.
He's woeful for that.
What's annoying though as well is he's involved in the very first team up mission in the game.
Yes, him and Andy, right?
Yeah, which annoys me so much because generally I think the map designs are very good, but when it came to the team up commanders, it always really annoyed me that they paired Andy with Olaf. I was like, these guys, like Olaf is crippling Andy with his movement, and then later on in Green Earth, there's a mission where suddenly Sammy turns up, but she has a bunch of submarines. And I'm just like, why would Sammy be here with submarines? She's no infantry, no transport units. Like, she's good at capturing things. Mm-hmm. But here they put her in with a cruiser and a submarine. And I'm just like, that is an absolute waste of her abilities. Potential. Yeah. Like, you know, they've just put her in for the sake of having her there. Yeah. You know?
So, but that's interesting because she was in to help. Was it Eagle in that mission? Was that a Green Earth?
She was either helping Eagle or Drake.
I think it was when we had to sink the battleships, wasn't it? Like
no, that was one where you were fighting against Lash. I only did that one recently, and Sammy isn't involved in that one. But the interesting thing about the reason they did that, and this is why I liked playing through the first one again, is that I didn't realize there's certain kind of relationships that form. So like there's a very much a mutual respect between Sammy and Eagle. Like Eagle's very impressed by Sammy's like military prowess, and she's like, okay, this guy's pretty, you know, and like, okay, what's going on there? And Andy and Eagle have a rivalry. Grit must be Nell's ex. You know, this is like a soap in itself. Do you know what I mean? I eat this shit for breakfast. But I think in those situations, I think there were, and it's very fucking, I mean, it's meager at best, but I think they're putting Sammy in there to build that relationship, I guess, because there's no other reason for her to be there apart from her and Eagle's, what would you say, I wouldn't even say relationship, but their little tit for tat. Because I quite enjoyed when I finished that mission. They had a little enjoyable tit for tat, like a respect between one another and stuff like that.
It's crazy that they would design an entire level just for those
the
2 bits of dialogue for those 2 characters. It just defies everything that the game's about.
So that's also the difference between 1 and 2, because in 1, right, you're playing the game and you're Orange Star, you're just defending yourself against Blue, and then randomly enough you just move over, and then like Green starts like you get into fights with them. You're like, how did this happen? Why are we fighting these people? It never goes into it.
In Advanced Wars, it doesn't really make sense.
Then to Gold Army you go fighting again, and it's kind of like, oh, they're saying like, oh, Orange Star are like coming here and they're doing this and that, and you're just kind of like, but aren't I defending myself? Isn't that what I'm doing? And then
it's funny that because that's what I thought was funny. Because I'm much older now. I didn't question it at all when I was a kid, right? I didn't question it once. I was just like, I'm just playing a game and I'm fighting against everybody. But what's quite funny about that is you do this mission, you're trying to protect Orange Star land, like your territory, and after you've done that, you just march across the whole fucking world, like battling everybody. And each time the excuse is like, we're just passing through, like, but it's like literally just like, you know, you're completing.
It's like, where are you going though?
Why? Like, well, but it was. I think I paid a bit more attention to it, and you do hear bits whereby Olaf, especially in the bits where you do Blue Moon, Olaf always makes these comments of being like, oh, he'll be most disappointed by this. And I'm like, oh, who's Olaf talking about, you know? And so I think they do kind of place quite early on in that game. I didn't pick it up at all when I was younger playing it, but this time I kind of says, oh, that they actually are setting the seeds for there's something untoward happening here. Like Olaf's been tricked for some reason and thinks Andy's a big enemy and has passed that word on to everybody. So
one of the other things is that, especially at the end of 1 before the big bad comes out, is that Andy has a clone, and that clone's been using as like an imposter, and he's been attacking the other nations. But what's weird is never when you are the real Andy and you're like playing the game, never does anyone go, you were here a while ago and you blew up our cities or you fucking destroyed everything. It's always just kind of like they're talking to them for the very first time, and then at the end of it they're kind of like, yeah, that little boy Andy destroyed all everything. It's like, you had so many opportunities to talk to this person.
So
and never once
I wouldn't give the game a 10 out of 10 for its delivery of the narrative. Do you know what I mean? It's very much a kid's game. For myself, in terms of commanding officers, I'm a big Blue Moon fan. Not so much of Olaf, because I think his superpower is atrocious. Colin is my all-time favorite character.
I am, thank you.
Colin, okay? I love you too, Colin.
I'm shocked Colin. He didn't name Colin. I thought he'd just throw it in there
just for fun. Oh, I'm in the game. Prep. No, Colin from Blue Moon is great. So his natural ability, never mind his superpowers, his natural ability is that in opposition to Kanbei, all of his units are a lot cheaper, but so are his, like the power of his units. The firepower is a lot weaker.
But you know the reason behind his power? Like if you read his description,
his parents are like super wealthy.
His parents are super rich, so they get stuff cheap. And like, that is awful.
Classic system, like, you know. I like that little nod to it. But yeah, so big fan of him, because I like, you know, especially when I was doing War Room, I wish I still had my Game Boy Advance with like the Advance Wars 2 cartridge with a save file, because if you could go onto it and scroll down my War Room of all the other missions, all of them were done by Colin. Every mission, even if it wasn't to his strategy, every mission was done by Colin, because I found that by having units that were so much cheaper to buy, it was just power by numbers.
It was almost like a head start, because you know, on a lot of those missions, you know, you're trying to build an APC or as many infantry as you can to like get those bases. So those first few turns are essential on some of the maps. So if you can deploy 20% more troops than everyone else, within a couple of turns, you've gone a lot further than everyone else. So
that's a nice element of the strategy behind it, because depending on the level and depending on what CEO you've picked, like if you pick Colin when you need a defensive choke point on a level, you're just fucked.
Like, in terms of
he doesn't have the defense capabilities to like go head to head with most other people. So like if you ever have the choice, and in this level, like maybe if it's not a direct him mission, but if it's a level whereby it's like somebody has to hold down the fort here while on alternative force does this,
survive 10 days.
That's his very first mission, is exactly that. Like,
but like he is so hard to like control that, because other enemies just wreck him. So unless he gets that first hit in, he's almost doomed. Whereas like if you want like a defensive point, we talked about Kanbei, but like he will absolutely like hands down keep you safe no matter what. And in the very odd chance that Kanbei and Colin go head to head, Darren, what do you think would happen?
Well, Colin, we put it to the test, and I got wrecked. So we'll talk about the multiplayer in a second, but you and me tried a quick multiplayer level while we were waiting for Craig to come over, and we gave it a bash, and you picked like one of your favorites, who's Kanbei, who's super strong and everything's more expensive, and I was like, haha, the perfect counter to his expensive Kanbei is my cheap Colin. And then we did the mission, and you absolutely fucked me over.
But in fairness, I mean, as soon as I took a look at the map, I was like, well, when you only have 5 or 6 bases,
there is no advantage.
Your 20% means nothing, because like
the moment he gets that
he's
one more base than
exactly what you can each turn.
Yeah. So see, he'd be my favorite from, and especially because I think I quite enjoyed like the young buck, the little story in Blue Moon, and Olaf doesn't think he's capable, and Grit's like, nah, Keej, you got this. So he'd be my absolute top favorite. Behind him would be Grit, and I didn't like Grit at all when I first played through the games. Wasn't a big fan of him, but love Grit. Like that long range ability that he has been so helpful. There was a mission in Advance Wars 2 that I was lucky in terms of even the order that I picked him in. I didn't know. It's one downside to not being able to see the map, I think, beforehand to make a decision of who goes where, because somebody's just have to crit.
That's a thing you could do in the originals.
So so here we go. Like
on the map selection screen, it just showed the map in more detail.
Yeah.
So you did have that, which is crazy to me.
That they dropped that. Now. But I got really lucky in that there's one mission where you have to, and one of the things is that Black Hole Army in number 2 have lots of super weapons, and the only way to destroy them is by destroying a weakened part or a seal in the pipe.
Or the factory itself.
Yeah, and there was this mission where I picked Grit just as my first person. I was like, maybe the long range might help here. And he was over on an island to the top left, and he had to cross a big bridge over. And then there's one spot where if I was anybody else with long range and rockets, I'd be one distance short of being able to hit the pipe, which meant that anybody else would have had to march right up towards the pipe. And it's a real choking point.
Is this the final mission for Gold Comet?
I think it possibly might be.
I think it is, just because of that exact scenario.
Yeah, and you have like Kanbei down the bottom just kind of trying to march his way up. But it was amazing because I think I didn't get it. I got an A rank because my power was so low because I finished that mission so quickly. But I was able to march him up and protect a rocket with just like a tank. Because I had up there was like mechs or infantry. It was very early on in the game. And Grit's extra distance for his long range, I destroyed the pipe, and I think I finished that thing in like 6 or 7 days. Like crazy quick level. And for that I was like, it's almost like the game is broken. Like he can break the game for certain things like that, where his range is almost too powerful. But I think he would be. I picked Colin, and that was a mistake when we did our multiplayer level. But I think if we would ever try it again, and we'll talk about why we probably might not ever try it again, I'd love to play as Grit, because I think hiding in the trees in the fog of war with that extra range.
Yeah. Oh, like that's his first mission. Is like a defensive kind of woods area, and like the enemy has about 20 MD tanks, 10 Neo tanks, and all you have is a few rockets and artillery, and you fucking nuke them.
It's so satisfying.
It's so satisfying because he has that extra range, and it's even defensive.
Even that idea that like when you're playing normally, it's like, oh, but I know where the rocket is, so I'm going to move a rocket that's just in range of his rocket, and I'll put a recon there so I can see their rocket, and then I'll blow it up. With Grit, you will always be one short. Like you have to come into my range in order to have a chance to hit me, and I love that about him. It's like if it's that battle in the fog of war and you think you've got the distance, you never do, because Grit's got this. So he'd be up there, and then it doesn't really work for Advance Wars 2 because they kind of nerfed him a little bit. But the Advance Wars 1 max is crazy powerful.
Broken. Like he ruined that game, to be honest. Like
he's so strong.
He's plus 60% attack power just because. I guess when they were designing the game, they thought anti-air or indirect units were more OP than they are. They thought people would just dominate with those, but they didn't. And like an MD tank with an extra 60% attack power can one-shot anything.
Because it was the most satisfying thing that I was running through levels playing as Max in the campaign, and I'd march like an MD tank up against one of their tanks, and it would be like, what's the chance of success here? And it's like 132%, like, crazy numbers. So you absolutely walked over. So I'd pick him because he made the levels that I picked him in Advance Wars 1. He made the levels like the easiest thing in the world. So I think I'd probably have those 3. A good bonus shout out to Nell, whose powers are incredible.
What are her powers actually? I never got her.
So she's Lady Luck.
Why would you like that as a power?
Because it's
I hate not knowing if I'm going to kill someone,
but
leaving it to luck. I'm like, no, I want the exact numbers so I know if I have to finish him off.
It's the amount that she can do. So her normal power is like up to 60% extra damage, and they'll have 20%.
It's like a dice roll. It could be any number.
Yeah, up to 30%.
Up or down.
Up or down.
Oh.
Are you sure it's not
No,
just
sorry,
up?
no.
It's
On
just
her
up.
power, it's up.
It's
But
just
so 0 to 60
on
for
our
that
normal
turn.
power, but her
So-
superpower is 0 to 100% extra damage. So you can go up to something and like do double damage potentially. So in the few games that I played with her, I would be like, oh, I need to stop this medium tank or this neo tank from getting down to me. So I'll march this MD tank to protect my rocket, and I'll just attack and see if I can hold it off. And I blow it up with hers because it was just like, oh, there's a 200% coming in. That was so satisfying sometimes that you get those extra wins.
And is that for an entire turn or just for like one attack?
Every single
entire
time
turn.
someone attacks, it's like a dice roll determining what their extra buff will be. So if he got 200% on the first attack, it will be something random again the second time.
And then what happens if, so you've used it on your turn, you've attacked everybody, your turn ends, but that dice roll ability usually carries over. Maybe not the dice roll, but if you're like
So
a
her
defensive
counter
boost,
her counter can be twice as powerful.
it can as well.
Yeah.
That's
Are
very
you
good.
sure?
then.
Okay.
Yeah, because she's still in power, so any of their attacks can have damage up to 200%.
I was going to
So
say that other people get defensive boosts
They
that
do,
carry
yeah.
over for their turn. So would she get that?
Yeah, I think she's just her power of her units are just increased, well, randomly increased.
Yeah.
But it was so satisfying to get her because she was, in order to get her, you have to have 100% complete Advanced Wars 1, and it was one of those things where I was playing through the game, and again the memory started coming back. I was like, what's the point of me doing all these levels again? Because I was like, oh, I have finished Advanced Wars 1. Do I need to go back and do these things? And I was like, oh, Nell. And I remembered straight away Lady Luck and her bonus powers. So I was like, I'm absolutely going to have her on the team, and that's who. And we'll get to it now. It's one of our next topics coming up in the multiplayer. Was that when we did our multiplayer level, I did attempt to play it as Nell just to see if I could ever get like the upper hand on you guys, because that like, you know, double damage essentially would be insanely good when you can get it. But moving on from the nations, the CEOs. So you got anything?
I was just going to quickly say,
Yeah.
how would you feel about really quickly just going through each kind of army and the COs in it, because we've talked about our favorite, but we never talked about any of the individual ones, if you get me. I'm not saying we talk about them. We'll give them a little highlight, a little mention. So like from Orange Star, I'll take Andy.
Oh, I would probably go. I'd go Sammy.
And then Craig, you're stuck with Max.
It's not a bad one if it's Advanced Wars 1.
I would never play
I'm not
that.
saying you
I
have
do
to
not
pick
like
these
Max at
people
all,
for
like,
life.
because indirect units I find are very tactical.
Yes.
And his are useless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm just saying that like that's what you are. You don't actually have to
No, not
choose
playing.
them as
I'm
your
not playing this game.
favorite character in the game. Because I would have gone Sammy. I don't know why I said Andy in hindsight.
Because had you not have said, if you hadn't have said Andy, I would have said Andy. I was like, you literally just said Sammy was your favorite, and then
Yeah,
you went
I
to
know,
Orange
right?
Star picking Andy. Yeah.
Why would you even play this?
Because I just wanted to give everyone a name. Now we've talked about those three, but then Blue Moon, you have Olaf, Grit, and
Colin.
you have Colin. That's some of your boys. Green Army, we didn't talk about Jess. She's the new addition.
Jess or Drake? Yeah.
Yeah, Drake we talked about briefly. He's got the battleships.
They're-
And I'm not a mad fan of Drake. In his missions, I wasn't like, this is a fun mission. I was kind of like,
I like the missions that really push the commander's power and the commander's playstyle.
Yeah.
And I thought Drake's was good because his tsunami like cut their fuel in half, and you would actually see, because the level was so long, a lot of the enemy units
Would
trying to
sink
get to you
and-
would just stop
Yeah.
because they'd run out of fuel.
And if they
and it's like,
stop
that's a really
in the water,
cool.
they drown, which is also very fun, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it happens to you all the time as well. But the problem with Drake there in that situation is he's very useful on that one mission where there's a lot of water. Like, if you're on the
Yeah.
standard map and that's your ability, you're just like, that doesn't
But no,
do
because
much
you
for
can
me,
like,
know?
for me, like I was on missions where I had Drake, and then I was noticing that like if the enemy went past this point, there's no more cities between me and him. So when I did go to attack and I had a couple of bomber planes, the only thing I bombed were his APCs, and then I won
Because he couldn't move.
because he couldn't
Yeah.
replenish his
Oh,
forces.
that's smart. Yeah,
and I was
yeah.
like, that felt amazing to just cripple him by taking out 2 APC units, and that's it.
And that's like, you know, that's the satisfying thing about playing this game, is that when you know what the commanding officer's powers are, playing that to your advantages and the game kind of encourages you to do that based on the level design,
Like,
which is
could
very
I just talk about like a mission I just did today, because I was like, I've been playing so much Zelda that I want to give myself a refresh, and I was like, all right, I'll turn on the next mission, and I was delighted it was a sensei mission, and him being my favorite character, I was like, all right, shit, the enemy has like 10 times the amount of soldiers I do. How am I going to do this? I'm just like, okay, it's giving me a lot of copters. I'm split in two. My forces are on a divide, and I need to break a bunch of pipes just to kind of reunite my forces. But ultimately, I'm getting kind of overwhelmed here. But I have a bunch of cities up there by themselves, and there's no enemy infantry at all. So those cities are safe. So I guess I'm getting more money than I would. And I was like, how am I going to win this? What's going to happen? And then I got my superpower and I went, oh, yes. And Sensei superpower deploys paratroopers into all your own cities. So suddenly I had the enemy completely flanked because all my cities were still over on their side. And I just sent my mech units to just annihilate them from behind. And I went, that's how I was supposed to win, like, you know, and like I was scratching my head for ages thinking, what am I going to do? But as soon as that superpower hit, I turned the table instantly on the entire battle.
I know that exact mission you're talking about, and I fucking loved it. I didn't know much about Sensei. Like, I remember them, but I couldn't remember his special. And like his first special is that infantry units come. I remember just looking at that and being like, oh, that's pretty shit. Like, what am I going to do with a load of infantry units in my own cities? And then I looked at the other one and it was like mechs. I was like, that's in this level, that's very good. I have like 12 cities here and they're all like...
the mechs can do, like, you know, especially with those pipelines, it's usually 30-something% damage.
Well, to a pipe, only 18.
They
I did
still
that today.
like mechs. Like, I like using Sammy because her mechs have extra range. They have extra damage. Her mech troops in general, if they attack a tank, like, they're not going to win if they're getting it countered, but if they attack it directly, they'll take like 6 or 7 damage off it sometimes. You know, like they can do a lot of damage.
Now, mechs are ridiculously overpowered. They just can only move 2 spaces.
Not with Sammy.
No, that's with Sammy. Only on her power can they move 3.
Yeah, but then with her second power, she gets to move them extra 2.
Yeah, I know, but like a +2 on your superpower, I'd rather move all my units again, like Eagle.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
like,
that's true.
That's crap overall.
So the interesting thing, because you were talking about Drake and Jess, I'd say the Green Earth army is probably the most balanced because they literally have someone who has powerful ground units, someone who's got powerful navy units, and someone who's got a powerful
Green Earth are the most perfectly balanced team.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't remember Jess's specific powers. I did play as a couple of levels with her. I wasn't mad on her, but I have to say, like, she's basically just max.
So she's a Max who's not as strong as Max, but the movement. So if you use her
like
superpower,
Sammy and Max combo.
Well, yeah. So her movement for her units, I think all of your tanks, your direct combat units get a +2 movement. And I did a level with her recently, and I was trying to like catch up. I was like, oh, I've got a lot of units in here, and I need to get them up there, and I can maybe like push on and win this level. I did the superpower, not realizing that's the extra 2 movement was there, and all of a sudden, all of my units were in range of this battle, this foray that was going on just a little bit north, and I was like, she's just like, she is class as well. But the 3 of them together, like, how anybody could burst into the Green Earth's land and beat them, I don't know, because like with, you know, Gold Comet, you've got Kanbei, who is all over the place, has 0 strategy. His daughter has to keep talking him down.
This is crazy,
Sensei, who's a crackpot, and Sonya, who's not really experienced. In Blue Moon, you've got Olaf, who is he's kind of a different kind of narcissist to Kanbei, in that like Olaf thinks he can do no wrong. Brit's feckin' so lazy, and Colin's a child. Like, it's like, how can they do it?
And he's a child too, you know.
But Green Earth, they do feel like a balanced team of like COs who are all veterans. Like,
exactly, yeah. Whereas every other team seems to have like a child, like a kid, a newbie, or whatever.
If it was real life war, you'd pick Green Earth every time.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like, everyone else is just kids, like, and
messy,
silly.
And then of course we've got Black Hole. We haven't talked about those COs. So the Black Hole army, we've got.
You've got, let's go with Flack first, because you see him first, followed by
Lash.
It's either Lash. Okay, I was going to go with the third one then, and that's Adder, and then finally you have Hawk.
Yes,
who I always got mixed up with the Green Earth Eagle. I was always calling him a Hawk,
but
and
they were
looking like, what are you talking about?
That was a good development, because as you play through the game, Andy and Eagle have that rivalry in the first game, and then Eagle and Hawk seem to have this cool, like, whose Air Force is stronger kind of rivalry in Advance Wars 2 that I quite like.
And I don't like the other abilities, especially when you're fighting against them. They don't have anything that's overly good. Like, they use Sidewinder and all this, but your man Hawk, his ability, it's very annoying. He'll just do like -2 damage to everybody and massively increase his own damage power.
Those type of powers are very irritating because they're just so undeserved. He's just crippled all of your units for free, you know. And you're like,
and then the extra attack power off a troop that only has 8 health, you're just like, fuck.
And the problem with this game is that if you can stick with the level long enough, especially if it's one where you've got factories, you're going to win. The problem with superpowers like the one Hawk has, where it takes 2 HP off your units, it's just prolonging the inevitable.
But granted, like, his superpower does, like, not all superpowers are created equally. Like, like Sammy's, because hers isn't that powerful, she actually gets hers a lot faster than say Eagle would. So I think it only takes 5 or 6 stars to get Sammy's superpower, whereas Eagle's takes 9. So they've balanced it that way to try and slow it down. But I always found that like powers should be a way of like, because the enemy outnumber you all the time. In almost every mission, they hugely outnumber you. So it should really be a case of you use your power to turn the odds. But because of the way powers are, the more damage you sustain, the more you power up. The enemy uses their superpower maybe 6-7 times in the battle, whereas you only use it maybe twice, So it really benefits the enemy more than it ever benefits you. And I think that was a missed opportunity, because it really feels like the powers should be your way of turning the tide and not the other way around.
Well, I mean, I think I'd probably disagree with that in the sense that the game was so... I mean, I had it on because there was casual, which is I guess the easier difficulty, and then standard. I can't remember what the standard.
Well, you unlock hard mode when you beat the game.
But I mean, hopefully hard is harder. But I played it through on the standard mode, like the hardest one I could pick from the get-go, and it was so easy. The idea that I would get loads of superpowers on top of what I thought was a very easy game already was probably too much. I mean, maybe in the hard mode that would be understandable.
But in Advance Wars 1, the game is almost designed for you to win. Like in Advance Wars 1, in the first 15 missions, on turn 1, you can always pretty much beat the enemy. There's always your unit is exactly 3 spaces away, and he can move 3 spaces to attack that said unit. So the game is like, you have no other choice but to do the obvious, so there's no real tactical way around it.
It's a really nice, actually, because now that I'm almost finished 2 and I 100% did 1, it's a real nice kind of, when you've played through the games as in their totality the whole way through, it's a lovely curve in terms of my first few battles in Advance Wars 1 are this very much hand-holding. All my units can move into the exact positions they need to get the upper hand. And then by your last couple of missions in Advance Wars 2, it's like, here's loads of units, here's loads of bases. Good luck. And I like that. Like I've been playing this game now for long enough that they're like, okay, pick your COs, whoever you think. Here's loads of bases, loads of random units, and good luck finishing this mission. And I like that how, because even at the end of Advance Wars 1, they're still kind of holding your hand. But it's almost as if the whole, I don't know what their plan was back, 20 years ago, but it's almost as if they knew there was going to be an Advance Wars 2 and this was going to be
the game came out only a year later.
Yeah,
like
so
it was almost a back-to-back. But you can tell because, like, if there's a level creator in Advance Wars 1, then you already have the tools to make Advance Wars 2. You know, like, because all they've done is add 1 unit. So other than, okay, how can a programmer edit so that we can have a dialogue box appear at the bottom of the screen and someone's name say something? That's all they have to figure out to make a campaign.
Very disappointing, because actually before, I didn't actually put this down. Well, level design, we can talk about it now before we go into multiplayer real quick. But I don't know if you guys played around with the level creator to make your own maps, but I made 1 or 2 maps for us to maybe try on our multiplayer session. And it's quite disappointing in that you play some of the campaign missions on these vast levels. They're huge. And the level design, you only get 1 size of map to work on, and it's very, very small.
Is it 1 size? I thought it was 30 by 15. Which
if it is
big. It's only the 1 size.
You don't get to pick like small, medium, or large thing.
No.
So like in the 2 that I showed you, I was quite impressed.
That was the biggest one.
That's the biggest one,
shoot.
And that's tiny. Like when you see it like that, it's really, really small. So I think in the this is a real criticism I'd have, considering that they're now using the power of the Switch compared to the power of the Game Boy Advance. You absolutely could have given us a small, medium, or large map to create really kind of intricate, intense multiplayer maps ourselves, because you look at Mario Maker and all those kind of things. People love that shit. People love getting involved and making incredibly intricate, well-balanced levels and share them online. But that was a missed opportunity. They never went that.
It's probably because those Mario missions can be finished in about 60 seconds, whereas the bigger the map, you're adding an extra 10, 20 turns maybe. That's an extra hour of gameplay
on the
just
gameplay
to get through.
But just to be able to, because the ones, I mean, I tried to put 3 of us on a map, and one that I did, and I thought I had it perfectly balanced. It was quite small, and I kind of thought, like, I mean, if you want to do a 4-player person, where am I putting the 4th person on this map? You know what I mean? It's almost like the level designs that you do should only really be for a 1v1, which is disappointing, because I'd like to make these big fuck off maps with loads of units, whatever else. But we'll move on to multiplayer before we kind of do our little review and improvements we make on the game, and before we finish up. So we said we'd give this multiplayer a shot before we came to this episode, and over the weekend we met up and sat down to play multiplayer and to play it. Interestingly enough, we tried to do it with a local play on multiple switches at first, which is the versus mode. And we went, Colm Yumi went, because it was a lovely sunny day, so we decided to step out onto the balcony to see if we could just play out in the sun. And those 15 steps away disconnected us from Craig, which I think is so like a disaster. That, and I kind of thought, well, okay, fine, maybe local play. So let's move on to online play, so we don't have to worry about the distance that we walk. And I think online play, you can only challenge up to one friend at a time, which means it's a 1v1. So from that aspect of alone, before we get into
they hit us twice.
Yeah, well, really bad. So and then so we eventually got one going after a couple of tries. We got a local party going. I had picked Nell. Colm, you were playing as
Sammy at that stage.
Yeah.
And
you
I
had
had
picked
gone as Andy because I hadn't unlocked.
you had bought the COs. And we put Fog of War on, which I think is the only way you should play it as a multiplayer. And before we get into our negatives, that hour and a bit or whatever it was that we played,
very fun,
so enjoyable.
I mean, we only got to maybe turn 12 or whatever, and we were trying to go fast, so it would have slowed down eventually. But there was a massive sense of like dread and like looking over at each other, seeing what the other people are doing. Because now I think the idea of a 3-way battle was so cool because you couldn't go just one way.
The balance
you were
is all
worried
wrong.
about what's going on. Yeah, the balance is all over the place.
Yeah.
So you don't know where to push too many units into one direction and leave yourself vulnerable on the other. And because you can't see where they are, what they're doing, you've just no idea what's back there.
It's so intense as well sometimes, because when you are waiting for your turn to come back around, you can hear, like you can in the campaign, I could hear you guys moving around certain units. So I could hear like the blades of a chopper, and I was like, oh shit, has Craig got
it's
a
a lovely
battlecopter or
touch as
whatever?
well, because it does
Created
reinforce that sense of dread where you're like, oh man, is that an MD tank? Oh, 2 MD tanks?
I was like, I'm in serious trouble. And I never picked it up, but I thought I was singing. There was an island with an airport in a couple of cities, and I had covered you from it, Craig. I was like, no, you can't get here.
So I flew over and it
hit a trap.
It hit trap because I ran into one of your units, and that cancels my movement, which meant on your next turn
I just destroyed it. Yeah, and I kind of thought, okay, and I moved a couple of battlecopters in around to protect this island, because I was like, okay, I've beaten off I own this thing, and I was just I was like, battlecopters are really effective. I just destroyed Craig.
Can I tell my little story then of how I got you?
Yeah, go for it.
In that situation, so Darren had moved his battlecopters across the water, intending to just kind of attack some of my units. Now I had an infantry unit on top of a mountain, which it greatly increases their field of view, so I could see Darren's battlecopter, but I wanted to get him with an anti-air unit, but my anti-air unit was completely out of range. But Darren was like talking to me or whatever, so because you can see the enemy units being moved around and you can hear them and all that type of stuff, I was thinking, damn, if I move my anti-air unit closer to Darren, he's just going to see it and then not move forward on his next turn. So I purposefully put my controller down, and so I started talking to Darren, and while Darren was making eye contact with me, I moved my unit into the bushes, which he would have seen on his screen if he had been looking at his screen at that exact second. But I engaged him in conversation, moved the unit, and then ended my turn.
Dirty tactics, Craig.
I felt amazing because on his next turn, he moved the unit right over beside the bush, and my anti-air unit was like, hello.
Yeah, it just destroyed me. So like that happened to me at first, and then I was like, oh, well, at least I got all these other battle helicopters, and this island is safe. And, we didn't have a whole lot of funds to use at the start, so I was just, battlecopter here and there. And then I hadn't really engaged with you at all, Colm, in that fight just yet. We had come across 2 infantries maybe at the top of our screen.
Maybe at that stage. So right at the start of that level, I branched out. So I went, like I had a center point of the level. You had the top left. Craig had the bottom kind of left as well.
Bottom left, yeah.
And I was just kind of mid. But what I had was like the ability to use my transport copters to get... First I went up your way, Darren, took the outskirts of your little island.
Yeah.
Then while that guy was capturing shit, I brought the helicopter back down, picked someone else up on the way and sent them down to Craig's island, on his far outskirts. So I started capturing shit and working my way towards you.
Yeah.
So by the time you encountered me, I'd already captured everything behind me.
Yeah,
I could Darren. Yeah, because you went for that center island, which belongs to no one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like whoever controls that island could kind of control the map.
But
you hadn't yet secured your own island.
But this is the thing. I thought I had. This is what killed me. I had captured all the 3 cities and the airport on this island, and I was like, hell yeah! I've got an airport that's in like fucking such close range to both your HQs. So I mean, this is going to be great. And out of nowhere, Colin takes this turn. I don't know how long you were fucking saving up for this, but it never once crossed my mind. I had like 4 or 5 battle copters just hovering around this island, being like, no one can touch me. And then I hear that whoosh of a fighter jet arriving in amongst, and you wrecked all of my units. And that's what I mean. Like this was so much fun, and there was me thinking I was probably, if I had to put like a first, second, third, I probably said, well, maybe I'm winning right now, and Column's in second.
I
Craig's
definitely
in third.
was in the lead. What are you talking
But
about?
in terms of, so this is from what I could see. Do you know, 'cause that's what I love about the Fog of War. In my head, I was like, oh, I've got the center island. I'm not too worried about the north. Craig seems to be fighting Column down south. I'm in a strong position. And it's
Well,
funny.
I have no idea what happened in your battles, but let me give you a recap of theirs. You took out my transport copter worth 5,000 and an infantry unit worth 1,000. That's 6,000 damage you've done to me, Darren.
Yeah.
I took out one of your battle copters worth 9,000. So I'm ahead of you. I'm a column in there too, little scuffles. I took out 2 of his infantry units and he destroyed none of my units. So I am in the lead in both situations against you, Darren, and against you, Colin.
But you see, you were fighting on, that's what I mean, you were fighting on 2 fronts, so you could never really. So like the thing about it was, I had no interest in fighting Column, so I had a number of units to bring down to your area to take that little airport stuff that you had on the side. So you were fighting on 2 fronts. So I know what you're thinking. We all thought we were winning, Craig, but I'll tell you,
I know, but on a sheer numbers perspective, I am winning.
Yes, for talking about funds, mathematically, yes. But you bringing over the fighter jet column completely ruined all of my strategy. I was dead. And the saddest thing was that this was so enjoyable and so much fun that the very next turn, column just disconnected.
Yeah.
And that was it. And because
we're not even connected to the internet.
No,
it's
a local. So you
wireless.
can't blame a dip in the internet. It's all local, and the most disappointing thing about that was you cannot save mid-game. There's no automatic save that you can return to. You just disappeared from the map column. All your units got destroyed, and the game expected me and Craig to continue on the battle. And that is such, for me, with the potential that Advance Wars has as a multiplayer game, that is such an unforgivable thing not to have working
big time
perfectly.
That was I enjoyed playing. I skipped Advance Wars 1 just because I played the hell out of it. But even though I loved all the missions in Advance Wars 2, that was the most fun I've had playing the game. Just the 3 of us in that one map. That excitement, I didn't have that playing the normal game. And I really wanted to see it through.
Yeah.
You know?
Can I also just say as well, because we're on the topic, this is a Nintendo game, right? This is like a first party game?
And second party.
Second party with Nintendo.
But they're owned by Nintendo, aren't they? Studio. So they made this game, and then you have companies like Capcom out there who are doing multiplayer games on Switch and stuff like that. What with Monster Hunter Rise, and if I'm playing Monster Hunter Rise with you, and we have 4 people in a party, if you drop out, it's not a big deal. It's like if you can get back there quickly enough, you can get back into the same group as your friends that you just lost.
Yeah, the game has designed the multiplayer in such a way that if there is a connectivity issue from any single person, it's not the end of the world. If there's enough time left on the mission, you can go back into the hub, you can rejoin, take a bit of loading time.
Reload, a save, anything like that. So
I see what you're saying though. It would have been very easy for them to just, if one player goes down, it instantly switches over to an AI and then if that player can reconnect, he replaces the AI. And that seems like a very easy thing to do.
Very easy.
But what would be even easier is that 2 people who didn't get booted can just sit and wait for you. You know, it's not like you're mid-fight against the monster. They only need to wait a few seconds.
Even if that's too complicated, have the game save after every single turn.
Yes.
And on the options menu, just do a load back in, invite the people back in and go from there. But we checked every possible option and there was no way for us to go back to that.
And
especially in the game,
such a bitter taste in the mouth that I actually I was enjoying a lot, and even now it's kind of at the beginning of the podcast I was like, I don't know if I can talk about this game in a positive light. I've just been burnt recently so bad by it that I don't want to play. I just want to play Zelda. I'm done with this shit.
Yeah, and I can totally get. I mean, I still love the 1-player game so much that I want to complete that. I want to get the 100% on that, but. The potential fun, if you were on a trip somewhere, because you did local play, if you were on a flight, you were going on holidays together, hey guys, do you want to do
back
a quick
of a car, you know?
Yeah. But it's so, again, it's that classic Nintendo connectivity, the Nintendo Online that doesn't work amazingly well, maybe, or just that this game's online was poorly designed. And especially because the game, in its simplicity, it's up there with one of the more simple games. There's nothing too
very,
complicated.
very simple, yeah.
So it's unforgivable to me that the online or local play is that like
that bad.
The online is bad too. You can only have one other person,
and it's crazy because I set up a room, and this is what I couldn't understand. It's almost like it was teasing me. I set up a room to pick a map and invite you guys to the game, and it says invite players, invite your friends. And it brought me to a menu where there was up to 8 positions to be filled, I'm assuming with your friends. And I saw your dog tag, Craig, and I saw your dog tag, Colin. And I said, excellent, I'm just going to highlight both these people and click add to game or whatever. Yeah. And the moment I selected one dog tag, it was like start a game with Craig. And that's it. I couldn't invite Colin. And I kind of thought,
insane, right?
How could this not be for more than just 2 people?
Yeah.
Because it's so simple.
Yeah. It's very lazy development.
Intelligent Systems did not do the remake. That's... for me, the reason.
But so one thing, and we're moving in toward maybe these kinds of criticisms as well. Like, there's little things about the game that on an emulator, I would enjoy this game more. Like, every time I play this in the past on an emulator, having the ability to just triple time speed. Yeah. Because look, in the first game, granted, I think the first game has a nice pace to it because most of the missions are self-contained within up to about 10 to 12 days, and that's the end of it. Whereas in the second game,
you can fight for 2 months.
Oh my god, it's outrageous. You could be fighting against Black Hole Army, and they have factories and is it factories?
Oh, they have they've got weapons.
You build your own troops.
You build your own troops in factories, but they have special factories where they can produce troops and move them in the same turn.
I think you just said base.
So just say the base there. So they're building things that can't move that turn, but then they have things coming out of factories that can move that turn. Then they're moving all their infantry towards you. They're capturing shit. They're attacking stuff. Every single one of these has an animation, and you can skip them. You can turn them off directly. Or when an animation begins, you can press R1 and it will speed up that animation. Yeah. But then the second the animation ends, it goes right back to the slowest possible pace for every unit to start walking and all. And it's just so like when you're playing a level where there's 50 enemies and you have to wait for every single one of them to pass your turn. It's just mind-blowing that they didn't have an extra speed top-up for me. Quality of life improvement, number one.
So I guess we're kind of on we'll talk about improvements that we make to the game, seeing as that's what we've kind of stepped onto. So, I mean, you would kind of say there's emulators who have done the pacing better than the game that we got, essentially.
It's just that it's such a slow game, and like I said, with the first one, it's better paced because there's not as much enemies, there's not as much the
levels aren't massive.
You play the mission in 15, 20 minutes maybe.
But the last few missions in Black Hole, you're talking about a minimum of 40 minutes, and then if halfway through that you make a mistake or you lose, you're just going back on yourself. And granted, going back on yourself, knowing how the level is going to play out, you'll probably win the second time. Yeah. But you could be about 30 minutes in before something happens that fucks you over, and you're like, oh my god, that's so much time that I have to go back through.
And whereas I never minded that when I was younger, when I was 13, 14, I definitely have a problem with that in my 30s now. I've got way too much to do in my life to fucking...
Having 2 hours to play one mission of Advance Wars is you just don't have it,
So pacing would be an issue. Multiplayer would obviously fix everything about multiplayer. That'd be... and I suppose the other other improvements I would make to the game would just be its design. I think it's too kiddie-like. I would always like to return it to that kind of rougher... Especially just infantry. I know it sounds like such a mundane thing, but the infantry and the mech units, how they look, really bothered me in this game. Really, really bothered me in this game. They were shiny, and I use the word squeaky. I don't know why, but I feel like if I held one of these units in my hands, they would squeak in terms of how you... Squeaky toys or whatever. So they... As a design thing, I didn't agree with all of their choices. I think it looks very bright and vibrant, which is great, but I think some of the design choices and I don't know if the design choices for those infantry and things like that were to dumb it down based on the invasion and why they had to delay the game and everything like that. But even still, it's too squeaky. Any other improvements you'd add to it, Craig, do you think?
I would leave the campaign as it was, which is fine, but they could very easily have just added extra units just for the sake of the war rooms and stuff like that, because there's just so much potential to have, say, a medic who maybe costs 2,000 but does 20% less damage but can heal a unit by 2. Maybe have a sniper unit or an artillery infantry unit, which gets maybe 3 to 4 range like an artillery, but if it's say in a city or on a mountain, that range goes up by 1 more. Type of thing. So there's loads of cool ways to make.
Interestingly enough,
units.
and I don't know if I read this somewhere. This is a dream that I had, but the Way Forward developer came out and said that they were delighted by how well this is sold. I mean, you read out before we started this episode.
Oh, no,
Craig,
yeah,
you read out
I looked up all the games that Way Forward had ever made, and 99% of them are sheer crap. You know, none of them are famous or particularly good games. They're just like SpongeBob, or the type of game that a 3-year-old will look at the box and say, "Ma'am, I want that game."
Yeah.
You know, and that's all they had to do.
So
long as they
IP.
made the box look good, their game will sell, no matter what's in the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's the type of company this is. So that's the worst thing I could possibly say about the company, but that's what I'm saying about this company.
Yeah.
Way Forward. Like, Intelligent Systems are responsible for everything good about this game, and Way Forward have done nothing to justify being attached to this project.
Yes, I suppose like all of the everything that's good about this game, as you said, has stemmed from the original makers. They haven't really made any sort of massive improvements. Interestingly enough, though, my thoughts on this are: did they revitalize this IP because they feel that they can do an Advance Wars 3? Like, there's
no such thing. It's called Dual Strike.
No. But I mean, that's what I mean. Isn't they'll make a brand new?
Well, no, clearly because in this they were just copying and pasting.
Yes.
So they clearly don't have the talent to even attempt to do that.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I'm putting my foot down, Darren, and I'm saying that they don't have the talent.
Well, I think in my mind, and maybe they don't. Maybe they could make it and it would be awful. Do you know what I mean? But my thing is, were they testing the water here to say Advance Wars was such a popular game back in the day, well rated? Is the audience still there for Advance Wars? Let's remake it, and a very lazy remaster, and not a remake, a very lazy remaster. But the thing sold like hotcakes, still very, very popular, exceeded all expectations. They kind of say, hey,
they expected it not to sell very well. I mean, did they even play the games themselves, or are they just copying them? Advance Wars 2. I don't think they did, Darren.
No, I think.
How could they be surprised that the best game on the Game Boy Advance wouldn't do well? Like, that's crazy.
But it's 20 years later, so like, is there still, like, does that audience still exist? That's what I mean. I wonder, was this like a litmus test to say, hey, we want to, or we think that Advance Wars is still a marketable option. We'll take over the IP and do an Advance Wars 3, because we've got Dual Strike and we have that Apocalypse one. I can't remember what that was. Days of Ruin. These other ones. But can we just do Advance Wars 1, 2 and now make a third one with like the Black Hole Army in a different iteration?
No, Darren, no, they can't do that. And I hope they don't. I hope they're all sacked and the company goes under, because they're a complete waste of space. And like, this remake shouldn't have been made, and if it should have been made by a competent company. Like, I can't believe how many games this company have made, and you would never have heard of any of them. They're all shit, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, you did read out the list. It is a bargain basement. But they're still a viable company, so they must be making enough money to keep going, like, you know?
Look, I would also say, as far as games go, like, if you've never played this before, it's amazing. It's definitely worth a play, like, especially if it's the first time you've played it. You'll still have grievances. You might even still think it's just the Game Boy Advance version.
Yeah.
You know, for all you know, that's what it is.
If you can find the Game Boy Advance and a copy of this game for less than the €60 price tag that this charges, you should definitely do that.
Interestingly enough, I went on to look for Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising just to try and get like the dates that it was released and stuff like that. And people were selling, they were still in the cardboard box. There's no games sell more like that. It was $170 something for a copy of Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising. I wonder if it's become a bit of a rarity. Do you know what I mean? Like, you get your hands on the Game Boy versions.
Clearly people wanted it though.
Yeah, we wanted it more in this remake. So I guess we'll come to our I mean, is there any more improvements, or we come down to kind of like giving a bit of a score?
I'm gonna say can't think of any at the moment, but I know when I get home or days from now, I'm gonna start thinking about loads of stuff that I hate about it and they could have done better, and it's gonna eat away at me. So for now, I have nothing.
We'll let you put it in a voice note in a future episode if you remember. So you said your favorite army was Gold Comet, right?
Gold Comet, yeah.
And Colin, your favorite army?
Favorite army, I'm going to go green, because like we said, they're more balanced.
Greener.
Sammy, I love Sammy, but it depends on what mission I'm going with. Whereas with green, if I'm Eagle, it doesn't matter what mission I'm on, you know?
And I would pick Blue Moon. So I'm going to ask Craig, out of 5 Gold Comets, how many Gold Comets would you give?
The original game is a 5, this game is a 2.
Wow.
Actually, no, it's a 1 because it's nothing. They didn't make any improvement to it. If you can find it on emulator or an old copy, get it. But it doesn't make sense to give them €60. If this game goes to €20, then I think it's worth buying then.
Yes.
But it's a really great game made worse by a shit company.
Wow, there you have it. Colin, what about you? How many green earths are you giving this out of 5?
Oh, I don't understand now anymore because I would have just given an answer, but now I'm like, okay, are we comparing it to the original?
I am, because I still want people to realize that the original games are amazing.
Yeah.
And I think this game has been made somehow worse
Because we are
with them doing
reviewing,
the
we are
basics.
reviewing essentially a remastered game. So I think part of the review has to come into, was this remastered well?
Yeah.
And I guess that's to come into
The answer is
that.
no. Like, you can't possibly say
if
it
you
is.
phrase it like that, it's not a good remastered game. However, I really enjoyed the game. Like, it's the same as just playing the original, though. It's just, it looks nicer, but it's still missing a lot of simple stuff that they could have easily just fixed or made better, especially with a year fucking delay and stuff. It's like, what were you doing in that time? Like,
So they just sat on it and didn't think, like, because you know when you were like, I used to make movies, and as soon as you've released, you're like, oh man, I'd love to add this and add this. They had a year to do those things
and just left it
sat
sitting
on
on
their
a shelf.
asses.
Yeah.
That just shows the company they are.
So out of 5, Colin? Green earths? How many green earths you give
I would
this?
say that the original gets like a 4.5 or 5, and this I'm gonna, just because like it's still overall a very good game, I'm still gonna give it like a 4.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. For myself, the original games I would have given a 5 blue moons out of 5 myself. This one, I think I'm going to give it a 3 blue moons out of 5, this remaster. I still think that, yes, you can go and pick up the other ones, but there's something very, and not to everybody's taste, and certainly not to my taste in every aspect, but it's very much a much more polished looking game. I enjoyed it. I know you guys didn't agree, didn't think there was a lot in it, but I really enjoyed the voice acting. There were some voice actors that I even thought I recognized. I don't know if Matt Mercer's actually doing a voice in there as well.
Ash
a couple of
Ketchum
lines
from Palatown.
yeah, exactly. So there's a couple of voice actors. Like the cast seems to be strong as well, and although there's not much line of dialogue, that kind of helped me immerse myself in it a little bit more. What I will say is, what they've done with the multiplayer, or what they haven't done with the multiplayer, is unforgivable.
Yes,
unforgivable.
Yeah.
In a modern day world where connectivity should be a very easy thing, especially with a game that's so simple in its concept, it's unforgivable that multiplayer does not work. Like, we attempted 3 games, and all 3 games we disconnected from, and that's not okay.
But based on how per remaster this is, I would have preferred because you can now get Game Boy games on your Switch.
Yeah.
So if they just released Advance Wars 1
and 2
on the Game Boy for you to download onto your Switch, I would tell everyone to make that choice.
So-
Because then you would spend probably 10 or 20 euro on the product and get somehow a better product, even though it was 20 years ago.
Now, the only problem with the Game Boy Advance simulator on the Switch is that's part of the Nintendo subscription plus. It's the extra one to get like Nintendo 64 games, Game Boy Advance games. I think you have to pay like, is it 60 a year?
But you can just buy the game, right? Like, it's still there. You just have to pay for the games, right?
No. So everything on those simulators is free, but you only get. So I have access to, let's say, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Game Boy.
Oh, I get
but
you.
Game Boy Advance, Nintendo 64 are currently locked by that extra level of on your online subscription.
Well, if they release Advance Wars, then you can buy it. But otherwise, no.
Yeah. So I think overall, our impressions. I mean, listen. 3 out of 5 to me is a good game, not a great game, not a brilliant game, not a perfect game, not a terrible game. Is it the perfect remaster? Absolutely not, far from. But I am enjoying the hell out of it right now. I've still got more to do. I will 100% complete it and buy all the COs and get all the music and do some more missions, because for me it's a really addictive game loop that's very satisfying when you're doing it well. But yeah, I think part of me would almost agree with you, Craig. I think if it was easy to get the original games, you're almost better off getting the original games.
Amazing game. Worst remaster in history.
There has got to be worse remasters than this.
I don't see how there could be.
If you know of worse remasters, then the Advance Wars Reboot Camp 1 and 2, you can email us at thegiftofgamepodcast@gmail.com.
Get it in.
Yeah. Colin, any closing thoughts before we finish up?
Yeah, real quick. Like, so then we've done a rating on it, but how about we look at it like, out of 60 euros that you paid for it, how many of those euros were worth it?
30.
Nice. I was willing to give it 40 euro because I thought of it as 2 games. I'm like, I probably would have paid 15 to 20 euro for one of them games on like a console.
Well, I bought the voucher, which gave me 2 games for 100 euro, and one was Advance Wars and one was Zelda.
Nice.
So that's even easier for me to put this into perspective. A game that took 6 years to make, and they worked their asses off, whereas a game that I'm sure they had done in 6 months, and then they put it on a shelf for a year and just sat on their asses. So when I compare the two like that, I'm like, 10 euro bargain bin.
Yeah, no, I can respect that. Yeah, so 10, you think it's worth 10? I think it's worth 30, maybe.
I would have paid 40 for the 2 games. Yeah.
Well, you've heard it here. So, guys, thank you very much for coming in for this Games Club of Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot camp. Yeah, really like it. Next week on the show, it's myself, my brother Andrew, and Luke, and we're talking VR games. If you'd like to listen to more content, myself, Colin and Craig are going to stick around and talk about some other Game Boy Advance games we might like to see get. I mean, the remaster treatment, but maybe a better remaster treatment than what Advance Wars got. If you want to listen to that kind of stuff, you can check us out on patreon.com/the gift of gaming. And as I said, if you want to email us with any of your thoughts, you can check us out at the gift of gaming podcast at gmail.com. Colin, Craig, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, thank you very much, Darren, for having us.
I thought this would be a short episode.
I know, here we are here like an hour and 20 minutes in. Yeah, we got this. Listen, to our listeners, thanks for sticking around. Hope this was helpful, or hope you had played the game and enjoyed getting involved in the conversation as well. It's always a pleasure, and keep enjoying the gift that is gaming. Peace out.